A Woman's Reaction to the Rational Male, Preventive Medicine by Rollo Tomassi. Okay, last week in Preventive Medicine, we did the formative years, primarily occupied by the party years. But now we are moving on from that to the epiphany phase. I'm excited about this one. It's gonna be fun. So this is going to be interesting because I'm here. I'm 33, so I'm right in the middle of this now. And so I've experienced all of this, or am about to experience all of this very recently or in the very near future. So, yay, let's dig in. It's during this phase that women with the foresight to see it will make their best attempts to consolidate on marriage with the man who best personifies or has the potential to personify both alpha sexual genetics combined with the providership and parental investment that an optimized hypergamy seeks to balance in the same man. And of course, he's talking about the tail end of the party years, the dawning of the epiphany stage, which I guess starts here about 27 and goes on to 29. Yep, 27 to 29. So, right around that age, like mid to late 20s, all of a sudden, she wants to know where this relationship is going. She's waiting for you to propose. She's hinting with increasingly less subtle gestures that she wants you to put a ring on her finger with a big rock attached because she's got to have everything. Um, I was I was married. I was at this point in my life, at this phase of my life, I was asking my husband to knock me up a lot. Like we were married, everything was good. We had our first year of marriage that we absolutely were not going to have a baby in. We were just kind of enjoying the marital experience, and marital experience was really cool. Like we had a great time together. I remember like our first anniversary, like I'd wrapped the cake up. Like I'd done a bunch of research. You're supposed to wrap the wedding cake up, like the top tier of the wedding cake, and put it in the freezer and keep it for a year and then pull it out on your anniversary. And my parents had told me about how they did this and it tasted awful, but they had like a couple complimentary bites. I researched the hell out of this thing. I wrapped it up with like layers and layers of plastic wrap. I did it exactly the way I had been told to do it, like when I looked it up online. And it came out tasting about as good as new. It was a little bit smushed ish, so the icing wasn't exactly as perfect as it had been. It still looked pretty nice, tasted so good. And I mean, that was the end of our first year of marriage. I remember it. And it was right around, actually, it was, we celebrated our anniversary. What day is it? We celebrated it 2 days ago? Yesterday? I can't remember. I can't remember which day of the week, but we celebrated our anniversary this week. Um, yeah, it was a good year. It was a really good year. And then we started trying to have kids, and life got complicated. But that was a good time. Like I was not, I didn't go through this part of life. I didn't go through this phase of development. Like it was just like I'm already there. I'm already married to the man of my dreams. I've got it all. I'm good. Smooth sailing. Granted, not all women who get married at the age of 23 have smooth sailing, which is something he talks about later in this chapter. Bear in mind that security for women isn't always manifested as financial provisioning, but can assume the forms of emotional investment, paternal investment, physical security, and most importantly, fulfilling a psychological need for a masculine role of stability, dominance, and direction in her life. So this paragraph right here really it was interesting for me. I read it and I was like, well, this makes a lot of sense because everybody's always been talking about the beta bucks part. Like, oh, beta bucks, beta bucks. It's always about money because bucks is money. Um, Security is a huge part of it, and it wasn't financial security. I didn't need financial security. I was a stripper. I could go to work and make $500 that night if I wanted to. Like if I was really desperate for money, I could just go out, grab handfuls of cash, and come home. But the thing that I needed was somebody who wasn't going to be a bad boy. Like, I didn't want a bad boy. Bad boys cause trouble. Bad boys cause drama. Bad boys are just a pain in the ass to deal with, and I didn't want that in my life. Like, I dealt with alcoholics. I dealt with a bunch of potheads. I dealt with men in my life that I interacted with that I didn't want to date seriously because I didn't want to deal with their substance abuse. And so, I was looking for a man who would be a good father. I was looking for a man who'd be willing to get married and stay with me long term instead of, waltzing off the moment someone, pretty came along, or even waltzing off the moment it got hard. I wanted someone who would actually, go through this journey of life with me. And that is security. That kind of fits into the beta bucks idea, which is something I hadn't really thought about, and I don't think many men do think about it. Many people think about it, but yeah, that was right in there. Like that's honestly that's where I go back to the whole idea of the everything man. I wanted the alpha arousal. I wanted to get those lovely gina tingles. But I also wanted somebody who was going to stick around and somebody that I could make an emotional investment in, who wasn't just going to, waste my energy. And so, that would be the beta buck side of the equation. And, finding that perfect sweet spot in the middle. That was my goal. And I passed up so many bad boys on my way to finding that perfect balance. So it's interesting you should mention it. This paragraph and another paragraph he had in the last chapter. Next week I'm gonna do a video about my life growing up. Like I know you guys realize that I was a stripper, therefore I very likely had a messed up life, and I've never tried to pretend that I'm that rare exception to the rule that strippers have messed up past. Um, Generally, they do. Most strippers that I know have had messed up life experiences before they became exotic dancers. I was no exception to that rule. The thing that makes me a little different is the nature of the messed up stuff that happened to me. And so I'm going to make a video about that because it ties back into this paragraph right here. And it also ties back into another paragraph that I'll be mentioning in that video. The abstract exaggeration is to think a woman necessarily hits the wall at 30. Her physical attractiveness shrivels and she magically transforms into a spinster cat lady overnight. Um, yeah, it doesn't exactly work like that. He talks about how women become aware that they're not as attractive as they used to be. And I actually did go through this phase because I'm 33. So 30 hit. I was kind of anxious about it because I didn't want to feel old. I didn't want to be old. I'd love to just hit the pause button at I would have loved to have hit the pause button at, 26, 27, 28. That would have been really cool. And honestly, I could have done with hitting the pause button at 23 after I met my husband and just going like that at that speed for a while, and that would have been good. Um, you can't. There is no pause button in life. You just kind of you gotta go with it. And the really wonderful thing for me in my life, in the way that my life was put together, I had already married. I'd already capitalized on the best man I could possibly ask for, and I had everything I wanted in that arena. So it was like, okay, that important thing is done. It's taken care of. It's not a problem. I knew really early on, like when I was 23, I even told my husband, like, he, we were talking about, dating up and dating down, and he was looking at you saying, I think I dated up. I traded up when I got together with you. And I was like, well, you can think that now because I'm 23 and I'm still pretty darn hot. But, there's going to come a day when I'm going to be getting older and I'm going to be getting less and less and less sexy. And you're going to be getting more and more and more sexy. And at the time, we both kind of thought that was a pretty fair trade off because he got to see me in my best years and I got to see, well, I'm getting to see him in his best years. It's really kind of cool how that worked out for us. Um, but yeah, I was aware 30 hit and it was like, oh God. Um, I'm not really noticing. I mean, I'm aware of the fine lines starting to form. I'm not as concerned about these. The thing that really got me was my hair. If you watch my earlier videos, my hair is straight. You will notice now that my hair is curly. My hair went through this complete texture change over the last 2 years or so. Um, it's been like puberty for the second time. No one warned me about that, and it sucks. This is a precarious time for a woman where she makes attempts to reassess the last decade of her life. Women's psychological rationalization engine, aka the hamster, begins a furious effort to account for and explain her reasoning for not having successfully secured a long term monogamous commitment from as alpha a man as her attractiveness could merit for her. Even women married prior to this phase, early marriages, will still go through some variation of self doubt or self pity in dealing with the hypergamic uncertainty of her choice. Is he really the best I could do? After flirting with some, what was it, 2,500 men? Something like that. Yeah, I think 2,500. Yeah, after flirting with that many men and still not finding what I wanted, there was no questioning. Like, oh, is he the best I could do? It's like, oh, thank God I found one that I like. Clearly, I'm a little on the picky side. I can't lose this guy because I'm not going to find another guy. I do not have the patience to talk to another 2,500 men before finding somebody that meshes well with me. Like, I'm just. No, I'm done. I am so done with the dating market. But as far as the what have I done with the last decade of my life, yeah, I started getting older and I started looking at it like, okay, um, the pretty is going away. Bye bye, pretty. I'm going to miss it. Have I spent it well? Like, okay, I had my 20s. My 20s were the sexiest time of my life. I can pretend that I'm going to stay hot forever, but the truth is, at this point in time, I'm just, I'm fighting the clock. I'm fighting the passage of time. Age is coming upon me. I understand this. Um, but did I use it well while I had it? Because it's going away. Did I spend it well? Like if it was a currency, did I spend that currency on the very very finest investments? And it's like, well, I got the husband. I'm good. I'm set. I got the kids. It really really sucked at the age of, 27, 28, 29, being like, okay, I could still go to the strip club and I could still make cash, lots of it, and have a party and have fun. But instead, I'm going to stay at home with my belly out to here, fat, pregnant, vomiting in the toilet, because these are the healthiest reproductive years I've got. And I want to spend them doing what they were meant to do. It was a sacrifice. If you live your life well, sometimes you have to make sacrifices. I like to think that this was a worthwhile sacrifice. It was a huge sacrifice. Bye bye, party years. I'm gonna go get fat. At least temporarily. Like it went away after the baby came out, but until then I was waddling around like some sort of hippopotamus. Um, was it worth it? Looking back at those last 10 years, did I spend them well? Did I make it all count? It's like, well, I think so. I feel like I did. You know, I could totally do it all over again because, it was fun. Wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind having a second set of my 20s. That would be cool. Everybody says the 30s is like the best years of your life, and this year it's been 2020. So I'm hoping that when they say the 30s is the best years of your life, I'm still in the early 30s. Maybe the mid and later 30s will be kinder to me. That would be good. But yeah, I feel bad for these women who get to the age that I'm at and they haven't done the things that I've done. Like 30 doesn't sting nearly as bad when you have a husband and a kid or two or three. Like all of a sudden it's like, all right, you know, I did the important stuff. I did the time sensitive stuff. I got that out of the way. I think I'm good. I think I'm going to be okay. Sucks that I'm getting older, but I'm going to be okay. since the physicality, sexual prowess, and alpha dominance that made up her former arousal cues in a man aren't quite as forthcoming from men as when she was in her sexual prime, she reprioritizes them with presumed preferences for more intrinsic male attributes that stress dependability, provisioning capacity, or potential for it, humor, intellect, the esoteric definitions of compatibility, and intimacy, all of which fall in line with her new sense of self convinced feminine maturity and wisdom. All right, he's right. And at the same time, I would add a little bit of an additional thought to that idea. He's right, but number one, humor, intellect, and compatibility were things that I was looking for at the age of 23, but I was a weirdo, so that doesn't count. Um, let's see, dependability, provisioning capacity. At the age of 30, you do begin to appreciate those things. Like that guy in the other room totally gives me the alpha arousal and the alpha dominance and all the wonderful gina tingles and all that good stuff. However, after I pushed out a kid or two and I couldn't go to work anymore and I was staying at home with the kids and he was taking care of our bills so that I could stay at home with our very young toddler and our brand new infant child and take care of them and be mom 24/7, I developed a new appreciation for the provisioning capacity that he had. It never mattered to me before. I married him and I didn't really care about money. I didn't give a shit about money. Well, at the time I was a little older than 23 because we'd been dating for a year and then engaged for a year, but I was still earning plenty of money all on my own and I had an understanding that that gravy train was going to go away someday. I didn't realize it was going to go away as quickly as it did when I got pregnant the first time. Um, I didn't care about money. I never cared about money. I'm not a materialistic person. I don't like look at the clothes I'm wearing, dude. I just never cared. And then all of a sudden, I had two kids and I wanted to stay at home and take care of them and I got kind of grumpy when I had to leave them for work and I had the freedom to do that, to stay at home and be mom and invest myself in mom stuff and domestic activities and doing the housewife thing, which honestly is kind of a privilege in our society. It is really hard for one income to support an entire family. It's not a common thing, and he made it happen, which is really incredible, actually. And I never appreciated it until I needed it, and suddenly I appreciated it. So, for a woman in her 30s, even if like I know what he's talking about. He's talking about women who haven't married and they hit 30 and suddenly they're telling themselves that they're mature now and they want things that really matter and they want all this crap that they tell themselves is important right now, even though a hot guy walks by and suddenly they're drooling like crazy over him. I had the hot guy, but I didn't appreciate all those more mature things until I needed them. So there's more to it, but what he is saying about women suddenly rationalizing the things they want or say they want, he's dead on the money. Like I never had to do any of that. Like I'm still very attracted to him, so it's really easy for me. I got lucky, and I didn't know how lucky I was until, well, I actually know. I knew I was lucky. I remember being engaged to him, like we were, the last few days before our wedding, we went to his hometown, and we were staying at a hotel, and I remember looking at him and just feeling like I'd won the lottery. So I knew then that I'd done well. Um, but it's been interesting because I read this and it's like I'm kind of horrified at what happens to other women and really horrified that this could possibly have happened to me. She's determined to make a fresh start the right way this time, when in fact she's simply making the necessity of her long-term security a virtue she hopes the right men will appreciate. Never had that problem, never had that experience, don't have any personal experience with it, and I'm really glad. I never had to hamster my life. Like, I just didn't. And I don't know how well I would have handled that. Like, I don't know how easily it would have sat with me. Like, I do not like even the slightest tinge of cognitive dissonance. It bothers me. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I have to figure out what's causing it and like dig it out and then look at it really, really closely until it goes away. So, yeah, I'm happy I didn't go through this phase. Like it seems unpleasant. Now I understand that women go through this phase when they're married, when they get married young, and he mentions that later on. But it's different. You're looking at the world from a different vantage point and you're asking yourself different questions about the world. It should be noted that the appeal of a man's potential for provisioning is proportional to her perceived need of that provisioning. Going back to what I said earlier, I didn't see any need for it and I didn't really value or appreciate it in any meaningful way until I was pregnant and well, freshly not pregnant. So until I had just delivered a baby and I was very helpless and I was, it was everything I could do to take care of our 1 year old and like she just turned 1 too. Our 1 year old and our brand new newborn. It was like that was all I could handle. That was enough on my plate. It was keeping me very busy and suddenly the fact that he was paying the bills and everything was taken care of, it was like, "Oh, thank God." I never realized how very, very valuable this is. I never got it, but now I get it. The need for it suddenly makes it like much more appealing, and I never needed it until that point. As I mentioned in part 1, it's not uncommon for some women to consolidate on monogamy, long-term relationship, or marriage well before either of these phases take place. While the experiences may differ, the underlying influences that prompt these phases remain more or less the same. I'll elaborate on this more in part 3, as it primarily relates to the later phases of a woman's maturation process. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I want to see what he has to say. This is going to be fun. Okay, that's going to be the next chapter, which is going to happen 2 weeks from now. I'm excited. Social conventions. Thus begins the men are threatened by powerful women, men have fragile egos, men are shallow and only want young girls they can manipulate instead of vibrant women who are their intellectual equals, and various other canards intended to simultaneously shame men into compliance with their hypergamous imperative. Not a problem I had. It all seems like a bunch of bullshit to me. Um, there's no mystery in why men want young women. Men are attracted to healthy, reproductively very capable partners. Like that's what women want. Women aren't looking for men who are homeless, penniless, lacking in ambition, weak-willed, spineless, and, physically unappealing. Women aren't going after that, but for some reason they flip this around and try to make men feel bad for wanting what men naturally biologically should want. I already got mine, so I'm out of the market and I don't care. Like the truth is out there and I personally prefer it. Women in their peak sexual market value years don't complain about a dearth of marriageable men. Man Up is the anthem of women in the epiphany phase. I found a dearth of marriageable men probably around the time that I was talking to over 2,000 different men and still not finding what I was looking for. But it wasn't one of those, where have all the good men gone? It was one of those, okay, I'm still hot and sexy. I still have plenty of time. I'm going to go out and keep hunting. That isn't to say all women make these mistakes, but even the most reserved of women still prioritize alpha excitement above beta comfort and familiarity. Yes. Oh, yes. Very much so. I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of decisions that seemed like a good idea at the moment, but when aggregated make me look kind of bad to you now. I didn't intend to get to 30 without being married. It just kind of happened. Oh my God, yeah, I mean, I've seen and kind of heard and gotten this impression from a lot of women. I get this impression from pop songs. Like, I'll turn on the radio and I'll hear this, and it's like, I didn't really have that problem. Like, I think I did a pretty decent job of looking at a guy, and I was very focused on, and this is something I want to talk about in next week's video. I was focused on a long-term stable relationship. I needed him to be hot, he had to be sexy, and I had to be able to get a stable relationship out of him. And if I couldn't have those two things, I didn't need that guy. I needed another guy. And so I was just talking to new guys all the time. I think people call this serial dating, but you kind of have to if you're not seeing long-term potential with somebody, you have to move on. You can't waste your time with some, Chad. You can't waste your time on Chad. You can't play around with the bad boy for, 1 or 2 years of your life and then go to the next bad boy and then spend another 6 months of your life and then go to the next bad boy and then spend a full year on him and expect to be able to find a meaningful long-term relationship after a decade of doing that. Like, I dated an alcoholic for 1.5 years. Um, I monkey branched away from that guy the moment I had a chance to, and I kind of I know it's bad that I was looking to monkey branch with him pretty early on in the relationship. He was cheating on me. He was emotionally abusive, and I don't mean that oh la, he said bad things to me. I mean, he was just an asshole, and I looked at it and was like, this isn't going anywhere, and there's nowhere better for me to go, so enter the classic female strategy of monkey branching. He didn't love me. He loved his booze. He tolerated me because he and I both wanted the same thing, which was someone warm to snuggle with at night. But ultimately, I don't think he really gave a shit about me. And so I didn't feel particularly guilty monkey branching away from him. Like, I really, genuinely, honestly, and truly, I'm not trying to sugarcoat this. I'm not trying to make myself feel better inside. That man cared about his booze. And he did not give a shit about me. So the moment someone handsome came by who was like hotter and more emotionally stable than he was, it was like, oh, nice seeing ya, bye. As far as mistakes go, I remember having the talk with my husband. We were early in our dating relationship, like really early in our dating relationship. We sat down at a diner. I remember which diner, I remember which seat we were sitting in. And I told him about everything I had done as an exotic dancer. I'm smiling right now, but it wasn't a fun experience at the time because I was a little nervous. Like, I made rules for myself and I kept very closely to those rules, what I was willing to do and what I was not willing to do. Because I know that, like, there were a lot of reasons. Reason number one, for me at least, casual sex is like potato chips. You eat one, it's delicious. You want to have another. You have another and another and another. Oh my god, I ate the whole bag. That results in things like, unplanned pregnancies, abortions, STDs of their many flavors and varieties, which I did not want to have to deal with. So I had rules. I won't do things that will give me these problems. I won't do things, rule number two, like the second part of that goal. I won't do things that will make a potential, a good man. When I finally find a man that I like, who's good, who's got all the qualities that I want, I don't want him to hear about my life and run away screaming. So no, I am not going to have sex with this random stranger in the back room of a club that's more like a brothel in New Orleans, because one of these days I might meet Mr. Right, and Mr. Right isn't going to want to marry some gal who had sex for money in the back room of some club in New Orleans. Like, that's it. And so I sat down with him at the diner and I told him everything I had done. Like, there was one club where we regularly would call like bachelors and birthday guys up on stage, like if they were having a party. This was part of our overall performance. We would reach into his pants from behind so that we didn't, accidentally meet Willie, and rip his pants, his underwear, to shreds and wrap his waistband around his forehead like a crown, like around his head like a crown. We did that, and it was fun, and people cheered, and it was kind of wild and crazy, and it wasn't like we were touching anything. We were just ripping like the fabric of his underwear, ripping the waistband off and pulling it out. Um, and again, we did it from behind, so we didn't physically. No, no, no touchy. Um, and I mean, I told him about that. I told him about every single thing I had ever done, every single guy I'd ever done it with. I told him everything. There were no mysteries between us. There were no, well, I didn't tell him that one story. No, no, I told him everything. It was a little bit stressful because I mean, there was a part of me that was like, is he gonna be okay with all of this? Um, I thought it was important. He thought it was important, and I mean, of course he should think it's important. Like, stripper, big red flag. The dude is not stupid. And so, yeah, I remember that conversation. Kind of awkward, but I mean, the good news was there were so many things that I could have done that I didn't do because they were not good ideas. And so when it gets to the whole I've made a bunch of mistakes, it's like I had fun. I didn't have as much fun as I could have had, and I had an acceptable level of fun, or at least a level of fun that I can live with. That's important. You know, I tried to keep the fun levels within reasonable parameters while also dancing around naked. I mean, the dancing around naked part, I totally had fun, but reasonable parameters. You know, just not too crazy, nothing too crazy. Which yes, I was a buzzkill when I was a dancer, but again, I got married, so it was worth it. Social convention that key on presumed social responsibility bombard men from all sides during this phase of woman's maturity, even perpetuated by men themselves. Men should date women their own age. Men are shallow for ignoring single mothers as viable long-term mates. Men feel threatened by successful women. And it's bullshit. I'm sorry, it's just bullshit. The epiphany and transition phases probably exist in some form for all women, but in happily married women, those phases come out looking less like panic. For women who consolidate on monogamy prior to those phases, their experiences are more like a regretful realization of getting older, and, sometimes grudgingly, seeing the actualized value in their husband as he progresses toward his own sexual market value peak years. Yes, yes, this exactly. That feeling that you're not as young as you used to be. You have these moments, and you look in the mirror and say, oh God, I'm not as young as I used to be. I remember the last time I wore makeup. I had some old stripper makeup from back when I occasionally wore makeup. I put it on, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and it's like, it was just one of those moments like, oh my God, I thought this would make me look more pretty, but really it just highlights all the things about me that look older than they used to. And so I washed it all off right away. Like, this is not showing me things I want to see. And it was regretful. It was kind of melancholy. It was bittersweet. Goes back to the whole idea of, did I spend my pretty years the way I should have spent my pretty years? Did I do it right? Yeah, I think I did it right. So age happens to us all. You kind of gotta accept it. Now, one of the things that's helped is looking at my kids. I'm getting to that older age, and every year as I get older and I see more wrinkles in the mirror, I look at my kids and how bright and youthful and healthy they are, and how they're growing, and how they're exploring their world, and they're expanding, and it doesn't sting so bad. There's still this life and growth and youth in the house. It's not mine anymore. It's theirs. And that's cool. It's okay. And when it comes to my husband's growing sexual market value and his growing power as he gets more and more established in his career, I'm so proud of him, and I'm so happy to be with him on this journey through life. Like, it's been really cool. And I'm happy because I mean, he did get to see me during my hot sexy 20s, and now I get to see him kind of come into his own, and it's so awesome. Um, I don't feel begrudging. I think some women would feel begrudging. I don't. Um, I'm pretty happy. It's sad to get old. It's sad to not be sexy the way I used to be. I feel like I should try to hold on to it as much as possible. Like I try to stay in shape and I try to eat healthy. Um, I want to be I want to be the sexy woman by his side for as long as I can, so that people aren't looking at him and going, "Why did you marry her again?" Like I want it to be pretty clear. Like I used to tell him, I used to joke with him when I was younger. I want people to be able to mistake me for a trophy wife. He's like, "Why on earth would you want that? Like trophy wives are shallow and stupid. Like that's the definition. That's kind of the idea." I was like, "Yeah, but I want people to look at me and be like, okay, he married her because she was hot." And, you know, I want that to be something that they can clearly tell because it indicates that he had the money and the status to marry a girl who was really, really super hot while she was really super hot just because he was that damn badass. I want that for him. And I want it for me too because then it says that I was able to capitalize on a really awesome, badass, cool guy. So it kind of feeds back and forth into itself. Like, it's stupid, but that's what I wanted. I'm getting too old for that now. It's pretty obvious I'm nobody's trophy wife. One of the problems men encounter for women who are early consolidators is that they risk being associated with the consequences of the regret a woman feels as she proceeds through these phases tied down by commitments to monogamy or resulting children. Okay, so my knee jerk reaction is to say, oh, I never did that. But honestly, like, there came a point after I retired, I missed my job. I missed going to work and earning lots of money. That was kind of nice. It was nice. It gave me this feeling of accomplishment. Like, I didn't care about the money, but I loved coming home with $500, like this thick wad of money, and handing it to my husband and saying, I did something for the family. Like, that was a really cool feeling. I missed the exercise. I still miss the exercise. Like, you walk into the strip club, you're spending 8 hours on shift, and you can spend that entire 8 hours focused on, you know, working your thighs, working your abs, improving your arm strength a little bit, getting that grip down so that you can grip the pole really well and fling yourself into the air, like just building up your muscles. And I can't get a workout in without, like, I was doing push ups and my son crawled onto my back and sat down on top of me. It's like, well, the added weight is nice, but this isn't working for me. It's very distracting, and I haven't gotten that perfect balance down where I can work out the way I used to. Like, I just can't. My muscles are gone. I miss them, and I'm not happy about it. And, like, there was this sense of restlessness I got for a while, and I didn't. I was sort of angry at my husband because he was the one who told me that it was time to retire, but he wasn't wrong, and that's the thing. Like, he was right. It was time for me to retire. But I'm angry about being retired. And so I was kind of just unhappy for a while. And that was one of the reasons I started a YouTube channel. It's like, I need something to do. I need something that's not domestic to keep my brain occupied and keep me busy so that I'm not. Yeah, every once in a while you kind of need to step out of the house for a little while and just get some fresh air. And that's not in the literal sense of stepping out of the house and getting the air. It's in the sense of I need to have other stuff going through my mind. Like I can't I feel like my brain's going to turn to mush if I just focus on domestic duties. Like there's only so many times you can bake a pie. There's only so many times you can figure out how to frost a cake. And I mean, I love playing with frosting cakes. Like, we can't eat the number of cakes I would love to frost. And so there's a limit to how much cake frosting experiments I can do. I suppose I could open a bakery, but I just don't want to. Like, it's not my thing. Um, so I needed something external to the house to just kind of occupy my mind. But once I had that, I realized that I was restless. I realized that I was unsatisfied. I figured out what I needed to do and I did it. And I think that women sometimes they don't they don't look at their own dissatisfaction and realize that it's an internal problem instead of an external problem. It's like, I'm unhappy, I'm dissatisfied, I'm bored. It must be your fault. Like, dude, look at yourself. Look at what's missing in your life and figure out ways to integrate the things that are missing in your life back into your life in a way that is not going to be destructive. I think that should be a woman's responsibility, and I realize that's probably not as easily done as it is said, but you can't blame your husband if you're unsatisfied because of your own internal issues. Like, take responsibility for yourself, ladies. A natural, unsolicited desire state, unmitigated by obligation or concerns for resources exchange, is the ideal basis for any intergender relationship. Any factors that introduce elements that hinder this genuine desire, exchange, negotiations, obligations, reciprocity, etc., weaken this desire and weaken the relationship. That is extremely true. That is very true. Um, that's I don't really need to say any more there. Like he nailed it right there. Um, the best kind of relationship that you can have is one where you're not making contracts or agreements. And if you go back to it's not always women that do this. If you go back to No More Mr. Nice Guy, he actually talks about this being one of the unhealthy strategies that nice guys employ in their relationships. Nice guys by the Robert Glover definition. Um, it's good to know. Like, if you desire someone, then you desire them. If you desire them only insofar as you can get something out of it, it's not real desire, and it's only going to weaken your relationship. I would never have dated you when I was 25. She proceeded to explain how, quote, back in the day, she was attracted to bodybuilder types and how she found them disgusting now. It's a story about this guy who was dating a girl, and she told him this, I never would have dated you when I was 25. And he more or less, I don't know if he broke up with her right then, but he basically told her he was never going to marry her, and everything dissolved after that. Um, at least that was what I got from reading it. Basically, he looked at it and was like, okay, I would never have dated you when I was 25. Basically translates to, I'm dating you now because I'm looking at you as a beta bucks kind of guy. And the only thing that I thought, like the first thing I thought, not the only thing, but the first thing I thought when I read this was, oh my God, that poor girl has no idea why this guy dumped her. Like, I know exactly where her head was when she said that. She was trying to give him a compliment. Like, she was trying to talk about how he was just so much better than those hot, sexy, sweaty, muscular bodybuilder types that she, used to be into. No, no, now she likes him. She likes not bodybuilder types. It's like, ugh. I know what she was thinking. She was wrong, but she didn't know she was wrong. And so when he had a problem with it, it's like, that poor girl must be so confused. And do I feel that sorry for her? No, I don't feel that sorry for her. Like, he was totally, like, I'm sure that this was a very painful thing for him to hear. And I totally understand why he broke up with her when she said that. And it wasn't necessarily even a bad move on his part. There's a certain terrible humor to the situation, though, where I just look at it like, she has no idea what she said, and she's not gonna know. She's probably never gonna know what she said that set him off. She's gonna be clueless, probably to the end of her days. It's just gonna be one of those mysteries. Like, I don't know why he broke up with me. I thought things were going so well. I think it's kind of funny because this is the rationalization hamster at play, and she has no idea. Kind of scary, really. I am so fucking lucky. I got married to a whore that fucks like a prude. The primary reason men become preoccupied with a woman's sexual past is rooted in getting the best she has to offer him sexually. There is certainly more aspects to this, fidelity, secure attachment, etc. But all men want a slut. They just want her to be his slut. Once the belief that he's getting the best sex she has to offer him is dispelled, viscerally and definitively, the nature of the desire dynamic, you cannot negotiate genuine desire, comes into sharp focus. I want to learn needlepoint. I never wanted to before, but right now I want to learn needlepoint just so that I can get the words, all men want a slut, they just want her to be his slut. I want to put it in needlepoint with pretty little like floral design around it, and I want I want to hang it on the wall in our bedroom. I love this. I love it because that's what we got going on. Like my husband and I, we are both very fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate that I have a relationship right now with a man that I can revel in my inner slut with. Um, going back to Tomassi's idea that all women have an inner slut. It might be deeply buried, but all women have that wild side to them. It's kind of true. I don't want to be a slut out in the streets. I don't want to appear classless and tasteless and trashy to people. I'm going to church. I'm trying to form bonds with the other church moms and, integrate myself into the community in a productive and useful way. I want to do all that good person stuff, but I don't ever want to let go of that wild side of myself. I want to be able to share it with somebody. And I'm very lucky in the sense that I found somebody to share it with. And so he sees me at my sluttiest moments, and it's awesome that we have that relationship. And it's something that men want too, which is just why he wrote this here, this sentence that I'm quoting. Um, probably a large part of the book too, but men want it too. Men want to have a woman who, lady on the street, freak in the bed. They want that, and it's so true, and it's so genuine to life. And people don't always feel comfortable admitting this, but this is what people are like. This is what we're like as humans sexually. Men want a girl who, she'll act proper. She's not going to be crazy, when she's out in public. She's not going to make a spectacle of herself. She's not going to embarrass him. And then when they get home and they're in the nice safe confines of the bedroom, all the crazy, wild, sexual fun comes out. Like that's what men want. And honestly, I think that's what women want too. Like women, I mean, I know that a lot of women these days they want to do OnlyFans and shit, but I think there are a lot of women in the world who want to have the guy that they can be crazy and wild with. And I think there are a lot of people who get sadly very disappointed when they enter into a marriage and find out that they don't have that dynamic going for them. And it's unfortunate. It's terribly unfortunate. Everybody who gets married should be able to have this this fun, kind of slutty wild, adventure, sexual adventure with their partner. It's so fun. And it's sad when it doesn't happen. It's very sad. The beta man encountering the newfound attraction a woman's epiphany phase presents to him often convinces himself that women's interest in him is genuine and organic. In a sense it is, but although this attraction, not to be confused with arousal, is perceived as genuine on the part of the women, it's an attraction born of necessity. I mean, I'm so grateful when the bills are paid and I don't have to worry about having a roof over my head. I don't have to worry about being able to feed our children. I am grateful. I am deeply grateful. But it's not the same thing as arousal. And it's never going to be the same thing as arousal. And I think if that was all we had going for us, I would be a very dissatisfied person. And I'm crazy enough that I would just get up and go. Like I don't think I would be able to marry someone who only I don't know, and I mean, I never got to this phase, so I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to marry a guy that all I really got out of the relationship was money. Maybe. But I needed more. And I kind of demanded more. And luckily for me, I got more. And so there's some questions that come up with this book where like if I had hit 28 and I still hadn't found that man, if I had hit the epiphany phase and I still hadn't found that guy that I wanted, what would I have done? Like how would I have reacted? It's easy to say now at this point in my life and this with this trail of decisions behind me, um, that I wouldn't have settled for that, but maybe I would have. I don't know. I'm really happy I never had to face it because it sounds so dissatisfying and so so much less than genuine. And I don't know if that would sit well with me. On the Rational Male blog, I've had countless men relate to me the experience of having discovered details of their wife or girlfriend's sexual past, and how it surprised them because their wives' appetites and sexual freedom with former lovers then has been traded for sexual reservation and self-consciousness with him now. Not our problem. Totally not our problem, and I'm really glad it has not been our problem. It shouldn't be. Like, there's this funny little part of me. Like, I know it's not necessarily the most polite thing to say, but seriously, when you get married to someone, you should have a stable, strong relationship with them, and you should be able to comfortably, safely, and with a sense of trust and safety jump into the adventure of sexual exploration with your partner. You're married now. Let loose, have fun, be wild, do it all. Try the butt stuff. You know, now's the time. Learn how to give a blowjob that is comfortable and satisfying for both partners. If your jaw gets tired, there are things you can do to make it easier. Like, experiment, people. You're married now. It's time. I don't know if many people do that, and it's like, this is what it's designed for. You have restraint in the days before you get married. You hold back. Some of us more than others. God knows I held back a lot. It was not fun sometimes. Like, it was lonely. And then finally I got married, and it's like, restraint? What restraint? Throw the restraint away. Like, well, maybe buy some restraints in the form of fuzzy handcuffs. Go wild, have fun. Try out the things you've always wanted to try out but never really felt brave enough to do. That's what marriage is for, people. You go out and you do the wild thing with, somebody that you love and trust and know is going to have your best interests in mind and all that wonderful stuff. You build up this wonderful relationship with somebody, then you get to have the wild, fun sex. Like, why aren't people doing that? Like, that's what this should be the most self-evident thing in the world. Like, this is what the whole marriage experience is about. Enter into the joys of sexual bliss with another person, where you can be unrestrained in your pleasure-seeking activities. Like, dude, have fun. You kiss the bride. Have a party. Like, that's what the honeymoon is for. It doesn't have to end after you go on the vacation to whatever nice place you go on vacation to for your honeymoon. Like, my husband and I just went home. That was it. We didn't leave the bedroom for like a month. Um have fun. Enjoy your marriage. Oh my god, and that's the end of the chapter. Okay, well, that's a nice happy note. Have fun, enjoy the sexual adventure with your partner. Go out there and do it. Um I can't wait to read the next chapter. I've been holding off on it. I am excited to see what the next chapter holds, because now we're getting into the future, at least for me, the future. I have been I know a lot of guys talk about solipsism. I've been very solipsistic so far in reading this book. It's been too much fun. Like, it's been fun. I again have that horoscope moment where it's like, oh my god, this is so me. So I mean, yeah, this has been an extremely fun set of chapters for me. I can't wait to see the next one. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys later.